Hi, guys. Welcome to the Luxe Conversation with Jacqueline Chyi. I am here today with what we're leaving behind in 2021. I know I'm a little late with this, but I did want to go ahead and stick to my guns. so, um, I'm going to talk about fear, limiting beliefs, expectations from others, and low self esteem. And this is going to be part one. And then I'll do part two, and I will cover the other, um, what we let go. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with limiting beliefs first. So, the thing about limiting beliefs um, are things that you think about that limit your ability to see yourself in a positive light, right? Or to see yourself um, achieving something or being good at something, saying things like I'm not, or I can't, or I don't, or like anything that is the opposite of I am, I will, I can, um, etc. So, we're going to talk about limiting beliefs and the way that they they shape your identity pretty much. Like if you're constantly viewing yourself in a negative light, you're going to have a negative self-image because now you're constantly in this state of mind of, I want to say, somewhat resentment of what you're not able to accomplish. When you look at a task, you should look at what you can do versus what you can't do, because when you're looking at what you can do, it allows you to be fueled to achieve whatever it is. If you look at it as a negative, then your creative thinking will not come into play. Your creative thinking will not allow you to be able to say, hey, well, I'm not good at this, but let me call X, Y, and Z, right? Or I may struggle in this area, but I can figure it out. I can search on Google and see, how to achieve this or what I can change or whatnot. Like we have to get out of this idea that we're handicapped. I mean, any of us that have a smartphone have the ability to learn whatever it is that you want. You have no real limitations on your knowledge except for yourself. So if you're not taking the time to do the work, then you're not going to be able to achieve the dreams, the goals, the desires, and whatnot. And with being able to be successful, you have to adapt positive thinking, because when negative things come your way, if you don't have a positive way to reroute, then you're going to stay there. And so that's why a lot of people can't maintain their success or move forward, because as soon as something comes in their way, it's like, stop. But it's not really that serious. You could really just take the time and re-engineer those negative thoughts into positive ones. So I do have like some examples here of what that looks like. Somehow my notes, y'all, got all jacked up. What the world? Lord, this is not funny. I was all nervous to do this today because this is my first time going live on YouTube too. So, but we are not going to let them limiting beliefs get in the way, right? Like I said, we leaving it in 2021. I can still move forward regardless. So, when you want to change the way you think, you have to identify why you think that way, right? So it could be from your experiences, it could be from your education, it could be from a faulty logic. It could be from your just own excuses that you've created that have become such a big barrier that you can't see past those limitations. So in my house, we're not allowed to complain. Okay. If you complain, there's punishments, because complaining breeds negative thinking. Complaining breeds limiting beliefs. So we don't complain, because anything that you complain about, you can change. So that's how I roll. You don't complain about things you can change, and complaining in general just doesn't bring you anything but more complaining. So you might as well just not do it. Um, I can say that I used to be very um I would say fearful. Um, and so that fear drove negative thinking. And a lot of times, limiting beliefs are driven by fear. It locks in place the fear because there is a there's this there's something in you that tells you that if you try to do something different, something bad is going to happen. And that is really all in your mind, to be honest with you. And essentially, we have to understand that even if something does happen that we don't want, we have the opportunity to react to it in a positive way. We have the opportunity to view it, um, as a lesson, or um, a challenge, or whatever you may want to consider it, in order to overcome it. See, perception in life is what dictates how you handle it. So if you handle life with the perception that it's nothing, there's nothing that you can't overcome, you will always find a way to overcome the challenge, or find the lesson in whatever is happening. So that's my little spiel on limiting beliefs. Okay, and so the next one I believe that I have to go over is fear. That's funny because I just got done saying how one of my limiting beliefs was fear, but fear is the most general term and applies to anxiety, and it's usually the loss of courage. So fear is like the fear of the unknown. It's usually an idea of intense reluctance to meet a person, participate in a situation, or just reluctance in general. And so with fear, you can't accomplish your goals because it doesn't allow you to face the um the potential harm, right? So what you have to learn to do is recognize that fear is good because it is a good thing, right? It's what protects us. It's what keeps us um, from doing crazy stuff. It's what taps in when something bad is happening to us. But it can also be a hindrance to accomplishing your goals, to getting your daily activities done, because a lot of the fears that we have were inflicted upon us by other people, or were encouraged by other people, or we created them ourselves, and they're not really all that bad. So the way that I conquer fear is by facing them head on. You face that head on, and you keep doing it. Once you keep doing it, you get desensitized to that fear sensation. It's just like stage fright. Like, I sing and stuff, but I have this fear of embarrassment when I sing. So I've had to keep putting myself in that position so that I can desensitize myself to fear. There's all different ways to attack fear and like get rid of fear, but one of the ways that I find very helpful is through desensitization. My words are not coming out today, but you just keep putting yourself in the face of it. So like, if you fear talking to people, the best thing for that is to just talk to people, literally going up to people and saying, hey, how are you, or just engaging in conversations that you wouldn't normally engage with, doing things that you wouldn't normally do, so that your mind and your body can adapt to that environment, and then it becomes a normal place for you. It becomes a safe place for you because now you're familiar with it. Now you know the ins and outs of it. I think a lot of times fear is driven by the unknown, and also the lack of 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 knowledge on how to handle whatever that situation is. Like I think the thing with people like being afraid like of snakes and certain insects and stuff is like when they get on you, what are they gonna do, and can they hurt you, can they kill you, whatever the case may be. But I think that knowing what that insect or what that snake is capable of, it allows us to not be so afraid of it. And that's the same thing with anything in life. Like educate yourself. When you educate yourself, it allows you to face things that you wouldn't normally be able to face, because now you have come equipped with the knowledge to take it on, versus walking into something blindly. Of course fear is going to be there, of course the anxiety is going to be high, because you're not prepared. And so the way that you conquer fear, the way that you move through life like a boss, confident, is by being prepared as possible. Meaning reading those books, watching those videos, practicing, talking to people, practicing dancing, practicing whatever it is that you're afraid of, or whatever it is you're afraid of doing or experiencing. Practice it, put yourself in front of it, visualize yourself doing it, and eventually that fear will subside. I think that nervousness is natural. It is something that allows us to be human, I feel like. But I think that there's a way to kind of, die it down a little bit through practice. All you have to do is practice. So that's my spiel on fear. And then the next one I have here is low self-esteem. I think I was supposed to do that before this one, but it's all good. So a limiting belief usually results in low self-esteem, to piggyback off of that. But low self-esteem is someone who lacks the confidence about who they are and what they can do. So basically, it's like it can be things like feeling incompetent or unloved or inadequate, or not being confident in your own skin, not being confident in the way that you look. Um, People who have low self-esteem are constantly afraid about making mistakes or like letting other people down. So when you have that constant fear of making mistakes and letting people down, all that does is it adds to that low self-esteem, because you are not equipping, like I said before, equipping yourself with the tools to make less mistakes and to show up better for people, because you're not putting yourself in the situation because of that low self-esteem. So that's the same thing. Like, you really have to tap into your own mental state and that inner voice that is telling you all of these negative things, like the thoughts in your head that telling you that you're not good enough or worthy, or the thoughts in your head that 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 tell you all the things that you would never tell anybody else, that you would never say to your best friend. Like, don't tell yourself something that you wouldn't tell somebody else. And if you would tell somebody else that and it's hurtful or demeaning or degrading, then you need to reevaluate why you feel that way about you. Why you feel it's okay to tell other people that. Because at the end of the day, I feel like our job as people, especially people of God, is to uplift, encourage, and love. Okay. And so love does not do any of those things. So if you love yourself, you're not going to tell yourself, "Oh my gosh, I'm so freaking retarded," or da 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 da. Like, I know we were brought up to kind of just be very free with our words and say those things, but those things actually affect you over time, because they become a part of your everyday makeup. They become a part of your everyday life. And so when you have low self-esteem and you are constantly pouring that on, and then other people are pouring that on, that's kind of how people lead into depression. We'll talk about that another day. there are several signs of low self-esteem. So like if you have a friend or a family member that is sensitive to criticism, or tend to socially withdraw, or like get really hostile for no reason, they are always like preoccupied with their personal problems. Um, they generally have like depression, anxiety, stuff like that. Those things can stem from a lot of places, but low self esteem really does cause that as well, because you're constantly worried about what people think, right? You're constantly worried about what's going on around you, and how people are perceiving you, and how things are going to happen for you. So, the way to overcome it. First, you need to become aware of your thoughts and your beliefs. Okay. So, after you've identified the times in your life where you have felt low self esteem, evaluate your thoughts about them. How are you interpreting what happened? These thoughts could be either positive, negative, or neutral. They can be based on factors or irrational ideas. So, if you take a moment to notice what you're thinking, you'll begin to understand whether or not your reactions to what has happened are appropriate or useful. So, what I've learned to do is ask myself, is this helpful? If I think something crazy, I'm like, is this helpful? Is this going to make the situation better? Like literally, self-talk is the best talk. So talk to yourself. Ask yourself, like, okay, girl, what's going on? Or man, what's going on? Whatever. If this is a guy or girl, whatever. It's literally filtering your thoughts, having those conversations with yourself, because you're not always going to have somebody else to talk to you. So you need to talk to you how you would talk to somebody else who needed some encouragement, or needed some advice, or needed some direction, or whatever. Um, the next thing you can do is challenge the negative or inaccurate thoughts. So it's important, like I said before, to ask yourself whether your thoughts are consistent with facts and logic. So that could be like, okay. So it could be something like, if I walk into this party, everybody is gonna look and stare at me, and I wonder if they're gonna laugh or whatever. Well, let's be realistic. When you walk into a party, normally people are busy doing their own thing. Normally they are not focused on other people. They may glance a little bit to see who's coming in. But other than that, it's normally really nothing too major, right? Or it could be something like, um, I know I was at the gym one time with somebody, and I had them doing something with me on the jump box, and they didn't want to jump because they felt like everybody was going to be staring at them. And I was like, well, it really doesn't matter if people are staring at you, because I mean, we're all at the gym trying to accomplish the same goals. Like, what's the big deal? Like, they are focused on themselves, they're focused on getting themselves together, and if they're looking at you and they got a problem, then that's really their problem. That's really something needs to be reevaluated with them. And so we don't need to worry about what they think. You need to worry about yourself. Okay? So sometimes it's hard to break those things, those habits, because they have become a part of your reality. But if you take the time, over time, you will overcome any negative notions towards your life that you've built up, because that same energy that it took to get you that way is going to take double or triple that energy to undo it. Okay. And so don't think that you're going to watch this video and then tomorrow you're going to stop being negative, or you're going to watch this video and next week you're not going to have a negative thought about yourself, or something like that. You have to work on these things daily, because you have been forever. How many years? Like, I'm 28 years old. So say I've been negative for 28 years. Well, I got to remember that when I'm trying to change something like that about myself, that it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take consistency. It's going to take time. And that's what I will teach you as your coach, how to stay positive when you are going through this transition, when you are moving forward, because it is going to take work. It is going to take daily effort. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to go through something, but it's okay. It's okay. So the next thing, we're going to adjust your mindset. You've been able to identify times where you felt a blow to your self-esteem, right? So next, you become self-aware as to how and why you feel that way. So self-awareness is like really, 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 really big in anything that you do, because you need to identify what happened, why it happened, and how you felt when it happened. Because if you cannot do that, then you cannot readjust your thought process, because you don't have a starting place. You have to have a starting point. You gotta figure out your why, when, your who, what, when, why, how. What we learned in school, you have to figure that out in order to make an adjustment, in order to make a change. So I want you to focus on that. Okay. So that's my spiel on low self-esteem and trying to adapt your thinking when it comes to low self-esteem, when it comes to fear, when it comes to limiting beliefs. All those things kind of go hand in hand. So that is really important when you're trying to change your negative thought process. You have to, the last thing I said is like one of the most important things, and it is become self-aware. Self-awareness is key. So practice being in the present, practice paying attention to your movements, paying attention to your breath, paying attention to your thoughts, paying attention to like just your surroundings, how you respond when certain people talk to you, how you respond when certain things are in front of you. How do you respond? Um, we are going to have a part two to this. And part two is going to be how to let go of the expectations of others. So when we talk about part two is like really, really deep for me, because I am definitely big on expectations, and I am learning and growing in that area. So I want to share that with you guys. I want to share with you some of the expectations that I have had and how they've affected my relationships and how they've affected my marriage, and all types of things. We're going to talk about that next. But before we get to the expectations, on Thursday at 3 p.m., we do have a guest. Well, actually, we have two guests. We have Jocelyn Weaver and Jasmine Woods coming on to talk about urban bliss. And I'm really excited about that, because this will be a really, really dope conversation. So make sure you tune up. Tune in, like, and subscribe. Um, and I love you guys. You guys have a wonderful evening and a blessed morning. Bye.